we should all be wearing masks outside, George. This is something that, as you heard Dr. Birx mentioned when she was making a comment, it's very important. There are certain fundamental things we should be doing, particularly if you happen to be in an area where there's viral activity. Wear a mask all the time when you're outside. Social distancing, 6 feet at least. Avoid crowds. Close bars in areas where there's viral activity, and do hand hygiene. There's no question about that. So that's something that's not really arguable. Right. Right, exactly. And I go along with the FDA. The overwhelming prevailing clinical trials that have looked at the efficacy of hydroxychloroquine have indicated that it is not effective in coronavirus disease. You know, George, I don't know how to address that. I'm just going to certainly continue doing my job. I don't tweet. I don't even read them. So I don't really want to go there. I just will continue to do my job no matter what comes out, because I think it's very important. We're in the middle of a crisis with regard to an epidemic, a pandemic. This is what I do. This is what I've been trained for my entire professional life, and I'll continue to do it. I have not been misleading the American public under any circumstances, for sure. You know, I mean, obviously the southern states that really actually had a major surge, the Florida, the Texas, the Arizona, the California, they appear, I hope, and it looks like they may be cresting and coming back down. What I'm concerned about is what Dr. Birx had mentioned just a little bit ago, is that some of the other states, the Ohios, the Indianas, the Tennessees, the Kentuckys, that are starting to have that very early indication that the percent of cases regarding the number of tests that you have, that the percent is starting to go up. That's a surefire sign that you've got to really be careful. And you've got to, if you are trying to open up, please do it in a way that's in accordance with the guidelines that we carefully put together some time ago. If you do that carefully and you do the 4 or 5 fundamentals that I mentioned just a moment ago, George, I think we can prevent the surges that we've seen in the southern states, because we just can't afford yet again another surge. You know, George, if you look at the guidelines, the way we put them out some time ago, that really is the national strategy. This was the recommendation that was made, saying, here's what you need to do. If you're at this level, you wait until you have a period of time over 14 days where it comes down. Then you graduate to the next phase. If you do well there, you go to the next phase. Obviously, as you've mentioned, some states are not doing that. We would hope that they all now rethink at what happens when you don't adhere to that. We've seen it in plain sight in the southern states that surged. So we've got to get back to a very prudent advance from one stage to another. You know, I don't know. I hope so, George, because I know that Major League Baseball, the players, the owners, the managers have put a lot of effort into getting together and putting protocols that we feel would work. It's very unfortunate what happened with the Miami Dolphins. It's just, I mean, first of all, I'm concerned. I hope the players are all right. I heard about a dozen of them have gotten infected. Even though they're young, vigorous, and very healthy, I hope they're okay. But you just have to watch this. This could put it in danger. I don't believe they need to stop, but we just need to follow this and see what happens with other teams on a day-by-day basis. You know, they might, again, George, I hate to make determinations on that, because there are people who are involved with the teams who are putting a lot of work and a lot of consideration in. It might be that they have to go in a bubble, but I think they're conscientious enough and want to protect their players and protect the personnel that they will do the right thing. You know, George, when I say I'm cautiously optimistic, I mean that. The reason I say that is that the phase 3 trial, as you know, started yesterday. The early data on phase 1, which was fundamentally safety, but it was enough for us to see the kind of response that this vaccine induces in an individual. And it induced a level of antibodies, which are the proteins that fight the virus, at a level that was quite high in the sense of it was comparable, if not better, than what we see in the recovery from natural infection. And that's really one of the issues when you're dealing with vaccines. If you can induce a response that's at least as good as natural infection, that is a good predictor that you're going to have a vaccine that works. Obviously, the proof of the pudding is you've got to do the trial. It's a large trial. 30,000 people are going to be in the trial. That will give us the answer. And yes, I am cautiously optimistic that as we get into the late fall and early winter, we will have an answer, and I believe it will be positive.